Oh, wait. Okay, I got it. I'm recording this. My other meeting, we just got disconnected, but my other one is converting meeting recording now, and then now this one is recording.
So getting back to what I was going to say to you on the theory of emptiness and be here now, etc. Do you ever read Eckhart Tolle?
Yeah. I mean, I've read a couple of his books, yeah.
He's very good at what's happening at the moment, like not to think in fear because we do tend to be fearful of things that at that moment you can't really do anything about anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, that book, I think the power of now is like I know it's just, the most sort of generically widespread Oprah kind of spiritual book, but it is special. It is really good. And
I
it's
agree.
yeah, and it's like genuine, and you kind of watch him speak, and he's another one who really embodies that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I found it like during the COVID period, I got into reading him. It was also like way back, decades ago, you had Baba Ramdas and Be Here Now. It's
Mm.
all kind of it's the same point of departure.
Yeah.
It's
And
interesting.
yeah, Ram Dass he's another one who's pretty amazing. And he comes from the Hindu tradition, which is, it's different than Buddhist views, but they all kind of work together. And I feel like I don't know, Ram Dass as a person to kind of, he's obviously another one that completely embodies that. But that's always sort of been, I mean, I have this art practice that I'm trying to use that. That's kind of the goal. Well, I guess I'm doing it in a way, but to use my spiritual practice through my art practice, and you know have these goals that I'm trying to change a certain aspect of my mind, and do these kind of rigorous projects in order to help that. I mean, that's always been the goal. And then to learn new skills and investigate other stuff as well.
But when did it all start?
The
When did this? Because it's a long path that you've been on, obviously. But like, were you like 7 years old and something happened and made you see a light or something? Or what happened?
kind of I had always, I mean, I come from a costume background, so I started with just doing that, and then learning how to sew, and then it kind of went to fashion a little bit, and then I took a long road trip to Florida, and it was like 24 hours in the car. And I remember when I got there, sitting on the side of a pool, and my body, from being in the car so long, my body just felt so cramped. And I was like, if I don't do anything about this, I feel like I'm going to implode on myself. So when I got home, I took yoga, like a yoga class, like physical yoga, every single day for 8 months. I mean, 7 days a week. I took an hour class every single day. I went to a center, and I was like in this weird bliss for a while, just because like I was opening up my body. It was all physical, it was like inducing endorphins and all of that. But I was like in a bliss, and I was like, there's something here, that I wanted to investigate. And I had this teacher that I used to go to his classes. He used to make you sit in meditation for 5 minutes before and after. And then I heard of these 10-day retreats that were like these intense ones, and it kind of scared me for a bit. But then like a year later, I went on one, and then that kind of unleashed a whole other aspect. But then I started getting into the science of it, and taking all these classes. And I have this Australian teacher now named Rabina Corton, who she's a Buddhist nun, but she's really good at, like, if you listen to a whole lecture by her, you wouldn't hear the words. You would just, she breaks it down scientifically in a way that's really logical and very practical. Like, this is the mind, these are positive, negative, and neutral thoughts. If you want to be a happier person, you get rid of the negative and develop the positive, and this is how you go about doing that. So it's really, I need someone to break it down logically and not put it in this like archaic, religious talk.
Are you
And
born in March or November?
yeah, actually, I am born in March, the end of
I
March.
knew it. I
Is that
could just feel it.
is it is it an Aries thing that you?
I don't know. I think it's a mix of many things, but fire and being incinerated. I mean,
Yeah.
there's something there.
Yeah, I
Something.
think
I mean,
the fire is there. I have to really work hard to control it, but it's definitely there. Yeah, all the
did
time.
your eyes ever get blood red from like all the fire inside you?
Just when I'm tired.
Uh, no, I have a friend, Aries friend, because that's the opposite sign of me. I'm a Libra.
Mm,
And sometimes all that fire, like sort of controlling certain things, it comes out in a strange.
I'm gonna look for that because I've never noticed that, the two of those, but I'm gonna investigate that because I feel like that might actually be a possibility, and I just, think it's something else that might be the case. But um, so after I made these dresses, I really wanted to, I made them to be sellable as well. So my next project, I'm trying to develop a fashion line, kind of a more wearable, a more wearable version. I mean, the Eight Dissolutions was actually supposed to be a collection. I guess it is a collection, but
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, I can see how you could develop those pieces into something wearable. That's not, of course, carrying the same um, motivation behind it, but yeah, like that red piece, for instance.
Mhm.
I don't know what material you use, but anyway, yeah, of course, you're going to make things that are sustainable because that's coherent with what your philosophy behind it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see you using plastic. Oh, well, you could reuse plastic, I suppose.
Yeah.
That could make sense. But the first piece and the red piece are super strong. I mean, it reminded me of something like Alexander McQueen, like very strong.
Thank you. I'm trying to figure out the money part of it, how to make stuff that you don't have to sell for, $2,000 in order to make like a little bit of a profit. I can't figure that out yet, but I'm working on that. I have like 20 or so samples, but even the really simple stuff, like I don't know how to.
I know I was a designer for my own brand for 13 years, so I know, like, honestly, I don't think I could have ever afforded my clothes. And of course, I had them, I could have samples made my size, even though I'm not sample size. But yeah, I mean, that's the key. How can you let the people that want to buy it be able to buy it?
Mhm.
And when you make it on a small scale, of course, you're paying like everything's made like a sample.
Yeah.
So it's, buyers will be passing out when you give them the cost and you're not making anything on it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's hard. I mean, I can't under my name, I can't sell anything for 1,000. No one, no one's gonna buy anything for $1,000 under you know, it's about the name partly, but I think the clothing that I'm working on, it's all wearable, but it's conceptual based as well. So each one, there's a lot of prints on them, like these sort of.
Well, that's kind of commercial behind you, as long as you have nice arms. I mean, you could
Mhm.
try it with a sleeve sometime.
Yeah, yeah, and all of them have videos that go with the piece. So you're able to, like, the tags have QR codes that you can scan, and it'll take you to a YouTube video explaining
Which is nice.
why this mudra and this, and kind of a visual about it. And they're not long, but I want to bring an aspect of the point of it and not just make it about like design or cool looking things. Like there has to be more to it for me, at least, you know, like
To
for
go into that aspect of it, because your work is more, obviously it's more art than fashion. Fashion's an aspect of it, but it's really, it's art project. Then you need a little angel to help you, I suppose.
yeah, I need a yeah, and I've been making everything myself, which is, I mean, when you spend like a couple of days developing a pattern for something, and then I don't know, be able to sell it for any kind of profit.
Yeah,
But
no, you know, because you don't can't pay yourself, right? I mean, it's always like that. It's the amount of effort you put into things. I mean, I have a, a fashion film festival. It's an association. It's always giving platforms for other people, but I don't see anything coming out of it financially. Spiritually, yeah, you feel good because you're doing something good, but it would be nice if it could also feed you.
yeah,
Never figured that out when I was a designer either. But
but you
but
had like a long time. You said 10.
14 years.
Yeah, I mean, and I watched some of your the fashion shows, and I mean, they were
Well,
great.
Japan was a great saving, because in the 80s, because basically my collection was the end of the 70s till like the end of 1990. And
Mhm.
during the 80s, uh, Japan was really into creativity, things that are new. It was the opposite of the American market, which is like just get it out there and
Right,
you
big
know how
flashy,
like
right?
the buyer goes through it. She's not really, and then you tell the price, and you're not making money
Yeah.
on their painting because you're paying all this money for fabric you get in Europe or wherever,
Hmm.
and you're paying 3 times what Claude Montana. People don't even remember Claude Montana, but
Oh, I remember him.
he was pretty brilliant. But he's kind of forgotten. I think he's in a rest home now. Somebody told me the other day. I don't know. But yeah, I think, I mean, I was really happy when I got a license with Japan because I thought, this is great. You just have to do the creative part, and then they're going to do the production, because you know how horrible production is, because that's where all the problems come up, like there's some problem with the textile or some problem with this or that, or if you get your stuff made by a manufacturer, you're going to be at the end of the line because you're of small production and you're not, I understand all the problems because I live them.
Yeah. So
At the
what would
time.
you, in this age of like, you know, getting it out as soon as possible and flashy and like, you know, big and crazy, and you know, people aren't obviously making as much money from it as they were, doing something that, I mean, I'm never going to not do something that has like a purpose. And like I really, as I teach meditation too, so I really want these, and I don't want to be didactic about it and be like, this means this, so you have to do, but
No.
these clothes really have a meaning behind them, and the prints do, and the way I want to do everything has to do with that. But it's, it's hard to translate that unless you have a video that actually does that.
Well, I mean, I think the goal has to be not that you have to have a video. Of course, I'm all into fashion videos. Obviously, that's my thing. But I think, it's like I've been on so many juries for fashion students, film festivals. And I think, like, on the fashion aspect, it's got to work without the story in the video. It's got to be that what you're imbuing in that actual design is the serenity, is like, elevating the spirit or whatever in its own kind of simplicity. And whether it's a choice of the volumes you work with or the textiles you work with or just what you're thinking when you're creating it, I think it has to work without the explanation. Because, so many times, let's say like on school juries, you hear the explanation and you're looking at the garment and there's,
Right.
I mean, did you make the story up after or what,
Yeah.
I just think you have to, like, that's the hard part, this is very cliche, elegance is simplicity, but it's in a simple shape, in the form, in the way you want it to feel on the body, what you want the person wearing it to feel. Somehow you've got to do that without needing an explanation.
Right. And yeah, and no, that's helpful. And partly because like I think we all know what you mean when you see a garment, then you hear the explanation of like ancient Rome and the winds and the rain, and it's just like, I don't know, a piece of cotton in the shape of like a t-shirt or something.
Smoke and mirrors of it all.
Yeah, yeah. But I think when you're making them, you get wrapped up in that without actually sort of realizing you're doing that.
Yeah, well, you have to have a point of departure. You know what you want to convey.
Mhm.
Like, that you're not just giving fashion pollution. You want something timeless that's going to elevate the spirit, that's somehow going to make the person wearing it feel a certain emotion. I think that's what you're going for. I mean, it's just my interpretation
Totally.
of what I'm listening to you and what I feel. But that's hard, of course, because to make it, in a certain way that it's the lines, the way it feels, and what you want a person to feel. I mean, I remember there was a shoot, this filmmaker wanted, this was years ago, I don't know, maybe 8 years, 9 years ago. This filmmaker wanted to do a short film on me, like on the color black. And he said, can you, would you wear white or red in the film? And I was like, I'm not going to say yes, but I'm not going to say no either. Like, I'll bring the clothes and I'll see what I feel. And then, so the girl that was styling it, I chose the stylist because I used to work with her when I was a fashion editor, because I was a fashion editor before, after designer.
Mhm.
And she brought all these like vintage Yohji Yamamoto. And there was this red piece, I guess it was made in the 90s or 2000, I don't remember what it was made. And you put on this red, I should find the link to this film, I'll send it to you. It's like a
Yeah,
flash.
please do.
You
Yeah.
put on this Yohji piece and you feel like a warm embrace. It's like a protection, which I think you want in your clothes,
Totally.
but you could actually feel it, just the way it's draped and the way it felt on your body. So I did wear the red and I did wear the white for flash, but
Yeah.
because I love those colors. I love colors. I mean, you can kind of see I only wear black, but I love colors. I mean, there's a certain energy. That's why, like, in all of your work, the red really stood out to me, because it's like, whether it's a small part or a major part, it's an element that's always there. And there's something about the color red that stands for so many things. Fire, for one, but it's a certain energy. Like, if you're in a bad mood, I don't think you can carry off wearing red.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to have a certain amount of confidence, and you have to feel good, because red is it's a statement. But yeah, it was very interesting that just in the cut of a garment, how you can feel like a certain kind of protection. It's not, it's the way it's cut. It's just the structure of it. And
Right.
it can be very simple, but you feel it. As soon as you put it on, you feel it.
Yeah. And Yogi would definitely be a prime example of that, because the way he cuts clothing is just,
He's like a magician.
yeah.
He's really, and he obviously loves women. You can feel it. It's not like he's designing for an ideal, like a Mugler, who I thought was a genius, but he designs for, his ideal woman, which is not gonna work with most people.
Right. I really like how Yogi always said that I'm a dressmaker, not
Exactly.
a designer. And I just thought that was so brilliant, because it's kind of the opposite of the higher, this kind of self-proclaimed hierarchy
Sure.
of like concept and art. And then he
Yeah.
always he put craft as like one of the most important things. And I respect that, and it's very Japanese to do
Yeah.
that as well. But just the actual craft is
But
just,
that's what you're all about. So, I mean, that's the part you have to focus on and come out somehow when you translate your sculptures and the meanings into a textile. You have to somehow convey that. And it is in the craft, because that's what you're into. So, and, the price will be the price.
right.
And I think if it's not like you can't charge. It would be nice if you can make things that, at least some things that are abordable, people can afford.
Yeah.
But there's, you could end up being a designer that's catering to, like, gallery owners, whatever, certain people that appreciate and have the budget to pay for it.
Right.
But I think you have to stay in line with what you believe and what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Because that's not easy.
Yeah. And I'll never get away from that. I can't get away from that. It's like it motivates everything that I will make. But I think ultimately if I'm going to do that, I mean, when I had this idea for taking this to the next project, it was just to do things that were like the cheapest I could sell for, a shirt for like $60 and not a
Which is
t-shirt,
great.
which would be great, but I just don't think that's possible ever.
Well, no, the thing is, to sell it for $60, you have to have, like, how many do you have to have cut at the same time to
Yeah.
make that? Because, if you're a small designer and you're doing it yourself, or you're having sample makers do it, you're paying like as an individual sample.
Yeah.
It's only when, you can outsource it and have like a minimum of, 25 shirts or 50 shirts, that maybe you can come to 60, and maybe not.
Yeah. And
I never succeeded with that. I tried at one point to do like a lower, because I started out high, because I think you always have to start high. You can always go lower, but if you start low, it's difficult to go higher. You know, I mean, to be accepted that way. Of course you can. But if you start high and then you try and do like one line, which is kind of knock yourself off and make it a little bit more simple.
Mm.
And get that done not by your sample room, by some factory or small factory or something. It's possible. It's never like as satisfying because, you know, somebody will look at a pattern and say, okay, well, if we, I remember I had a friend who was a designer also, but she also was a pattern maker. And I had her produce some things. I wanted to murder her actually, because she's like laying it out, you know, like, okay, if we're going to lay it out based on the width of the fabric and how many pieces you can, she's going to hack off, you know, a certain part of a drape or something. And I'm looking at it like, what is this? It was
Yeah.
almost the end of our friendship. Because I was like, God, you know, I didn't tell you to use less fabric.
Uh,
It's, you know, there are
yeah.
compromises, and probably you don't like to make compromises, and I don't either, you know, but
I would if it fit, but I don't know.
you can make a t-shirt, you know, like your accessible thing would be a t-shirt line, which somehow, you know, whether it's with the graphics or whatever, that was something somebody could always get. It's like you go into a shop and there's always some item people could buy into the brand and work up to something else later, whether it's a 350-euro candle at Balenciaga before you can actually buy this or that or whatever. You know, it's something you could do, and you could do it not expensively, you know,
Right.
like a t-shirt. I tried for the festival with Miguel did the drawing for the poster, and Miguel did my snail. I love Miguel. And he's because he said, oh, you should try and make a couple t-shirts. So I went in the Marais, but I paid like 20 euros a t-shirt, which, you know, it's crazy. And then I gave them away. I didn't even sell them. I should have. But I mean, you could make it for probably 5 euros and sell it for 40 euros. And then if we were business people, which, you know,
Right.
probably we're not,
Yeah.
but you could have that one item that could maybe finance the pieces that are going to be more, you know, capsule collection of, you know, sarcophagus dress or something, or, you
Yeah.
know, whatever. I
Yeah.
think it's possible. It's
Yeah. And
possible.
I think with what I'm doing now, I mean, they're really wearable. They're like, you know, hoodies and shorts and that kind of thing. But part of it was a commercial endeavor, but I think I'll never, I don't know, a part of it is just as I'm making them and, you know, I have a decent amount, I'm realizing that I probably should just kind of go with what I'm good at, which is interesting materials. And like, if it's more high end, then then so be it, you know, just I'll never be able to get like stuff that is production made if I'm making it at the prices that production prices are, if I'm making it.
Yeah, no, that's how it goes.
Hmm.
I mean, I totally understand, and I'm like, I'm happy not to be a designer anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved it with all my heart, and it took all my energy, blood, passion. It was everything, and I loved it, and I never stopped loving it. But yeah, I moved to Paris, and I thought I'm not starting from scratch again. You know,
Were
it's one thing to start with nothing the
you,
first time.
were you doing it all in Japan?
No, that was a license that was part of the collection. And what I liked about it was I had like a license, so they gave me a certain amount of money 4 times a year, and it kept going up because they had insisted on paying in yen. And then the the yen to $1 almost doubled. So I was making twice what I thought was the best time of my life. I haven't matched it since, but it was great. And I thought, I can just, I can just create a collection and I don't care how much I sell. In fact, I hate production, so I can just create and then, I have this money coming in. So it's all good. And of course, nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
So, and they knew like I was not good with money. So they gave me a year notice. Like it wasn't going to be renewed because I was working with a sub-license. Well, that's a long story. I won't get into it. But that was great. It's great if you can just design. It's great if you're like, Ray Kawakuba and you have Adrian Joff, who's like, as creative on a business level as she is, making her fashion where it doesn't matter if it sells or not.
Right.
It doesn't matter like if it's really wearable because you've got all the other things going. You
Yeah.
have the play line, you have the leather goods, you have the perfume, you have Dover Street Market.
Eggs and yeah.
You can just be everybody's icon, which is what she is.
Yeah.
The designer looks at her like, wow. But she's in that position because there's someone like Adrian right there.
Right.
I never found my Adrian. I mean, he's helped with the festival. It's in his space. It's the past 2 years. It's in 3537, which is, it's the cultural arm of Comme des Garçons. And I'm very happy. But when as a fashion designer, even with the Fashion Film Festival, I never found that business person, like,
Yeah.
never found my Pierre Berger.
Yeah. And that I could, yeah, that's completely essential. I feel like.
Yeah, and more now than ever. But on the other hand, what didn't exist, and I know it's going to cut off really soon, what didn't exist before was the possibility you have the good and bad of social media. You can get it out and people can find you, and it's really, you don't need all these elements that you used to need. You don't need a PR person. It's great if you have one. You don't need a marketing budget. You just need to do something that's going to catch somebody's attention.
Yeah. And it's amazing that everyone has that platform. And it's also not that everyone is competing with each other and it's become the loudest and but that kind of reigns supreme is the loudest and the most. You never know what catches on either. And I think taste has evolved a lot because of that as well. And I think there's like a new generation of, especially people working in fashion, that have evolved their taste to something completely different. And it's kind of not about craft. And it's just about a commentary on the social aspect of what's happening on social media. And it's all become like a play on itself. And it's become something else, which, I hate to be like the grandpa on the porch that's reminiscing about something. Yeah. And so you have to kind of evolve your own and understand why it's good. And
it's good and it's bad, it's
Yeah.
good and it's bad, but it's a platform that anybody can get on.
Right.
And if you have something to say, somebody somewhere in the world is going to see it. And
Totally.
that's a plus.
Yeah, completely.
So I leave you with that.
Yeah, there's 4 minutes
I
left.
leave you with like, just think about and work on how you can convey with no explanation what you want to convey. And it's not easy, but you can do it because you've thought through so many things one thing is following another, it's evolving. So to take, I keep looking at I call it your sarcophagus dress in the back, you know, to take something from that idea and make it in a more, well, commercial, whatever, in a way that's something you could live off of.
Right. Totally.
And establish yourself, because that's the whole point. What do you have to say? You have something to say. A lot of people have nothing to say.
Right.
You know, that's what I call fashion pollution.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, to work on that idea and also on the idea of what materials you're using, because whether it's a kombucha, the seaweed, whatever, how can you work on that on a small collection? Doesn't have to be big.
Right. Yeah. And developing, I mean, I spent kind of a long time trying to develop the textiles in a way that they can be worn every day, not for the 8 dissolutions, but post 8 dissolutions. And kind of, I feel like that's a lifelong goal, really, is how to develop, these textiles in a way that are really practical.
Yeah.
So,
So the dream is to meet a textile manufacturer that you can work with.
mhm.
That, I mean, I'm sure they're out there
Yeah,
that
totally.
need like the inspiration and take on the challenge of how can we do this. It's
Mhm.
more likely with an Italian manufacturer because they take on things more than an American one, but who knows?
Yeah,
There should be someone that's interested in, I mean, now is the moment to develop textiles that are sustainable. And
yeah, completely,
so
completely.
there are factories that are trying to, reinvent themselves. So that's something also to look into, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. I'm figuring all of that stuff out now,
Well,
but yeah, it's kind of a lifelong thing.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight, but you never know.
Hmm. For sure. But we have 1 minute left.
I know, I'm looking at it, one
Oh,
minute,
you can see
39
it too?
seconds.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't want it to cut off abruptly again. But yeah, let's explode as crystals or diamonds or rainbows. I love,
I'm working on that too. That is another lifelong thing, but I'll
yeah.
get there. Maybe not in this lifetime, but I will. But I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I was like, I used to religiously read A Shade of You, and it introduced me to so many amazing designers, and I really respected that blog respect. And it's been kind of, it's been a real privilege to sit and talk with you about my work.
I'm very happy. Well, I hope I continue to inspire you and keep me posted what you do.
Yeah, completely. I will, for sure.
And if you see our friend Miguel,
Mm,
do you see him or you live anywhere near Brooklyn?
uh, I don't. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm in Brooklyn. I don't see him very often. I saw him at a show that I did the costumes for, and he was there, and that was like a couple of years ago.
Less than a minute.
Oh,
So
all
we'll
right.
say goodbye.
Thank you so much for
Good
this.
luck.
All
My
right.
pleasure.
Bye.
Try and send it to me.
Okay, I'll send it to you now.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.